share. You can see it now?
Yes, now we can.
And so there's a little tiny bit of background noise at my side because the gentlemen outside have decided to do the mosquito spraying just as I begin to speak. But hopefully you don't hear that. It's just bothering me, but hopefully it won't be bothering you. So let's go. Let's get into this. So understanding Industry 4.0 is quite interesting because everybody talks about it and everybody thinks they know what it is. But it's been around for a very long time, well over 10 years, in fact. And I think we all think of Industry 4.0 as something relatively new and not necessarily something that people are doing today. But I think it's important that we try and understand a little bit around the background of it. What is it? You know, why do we think it's relevant now? And how can we go about embedding it inside of our organizations? So as we get into that, first off, my name is Maliki Martin. Thank you, Mukesh, again for the introduction and for the opportunity to speak here today. I am part of the Global Center of Excellence for Digital Supply Chain at SAP. And I actually am head of Industry 4.0 for Asia Pacific Japan. So I work very closely with everyone here, our clients, our prospects, and also all of our partners and anybody that really wants to understand Industry 4. So we've all gone through a very, very impactful couple of years. I'm not sure if you've ever seen this quotation from Warren Buffett. It's actually from 2009 during the large financial crash that happened then. And he said, "Only when the tide goes out do you discover who's swimming naked." And I think potentially over the last few years, we've all been guilty of getting caught napping, as it were. But to me, the key thing here is that although there are lots of threats in what we've experienced, as always, for all of us in the enterprise and in industry, there are lots of opportunities. The recent disruptions, and I just put the pandemic in as one of those. We have some other great world events happening at the moment that are impacting us as well. And all of these disruptions have highlighted that there is genuinely a lack of visibility across the supply chain. And as a result of that, it's forcing or it's compelling organizations into new ways of working and mostly uncomfortable ways of working. I don't think any of us have particularly enjoyed the way we've had to work over the last couple of years. And as we come out of the pandemic and we start to try to get back to some sort of degree of normality, it's really about how we can adopt the right methods and how we can achieve effectively the same goals as before, but perhaps through new ways of working. Within SAP, we specifically look to enable every enterprise that we work with to become an intelligent and sustainable enterprise. And we underpin that overall process by looking at what are the industry-specific end-to-end processes, what's the business process that's underpinning that, and then how can we leverage all of the components that we have within our SAP portfolio, but also our partners' components, and how can we bring business and all together through our business technology platform, solutions, integration, data, emerging technologies, Industry 4, and Internet of Things. And these are all key areas for us. And the key imperatives are to make sure that we're helping our customers with business transformation, that we're building supply chain resilience, and that new S word that's affecting all of us, that we're considering sustainability outcomes in every step. So resilient businesses and the ones that have emerged successful over the last few years really need to digitalize their operations and their supply chain to build in speed and flexibility. We talk about agility, the ability to understand how to react to market dynamics, productivity, being able to deliver high quality mass produced or made to order products faster, connectivity. And that's not just connectivity of systems, but that's also connectivity of partnerships, of the ecosystem and collaboration. And as I mentioned earlier, sustainability. How can we do all of this while our environments and the impact that this is having on our community? So why is Industry 4.0 relevant now? Basically, when we consider the huge amount of data, digital data in particular, that's now available across every part of your company, it really looks as though we finally are in a position to be able to make quicker, smarter, and data-based decisions, to be able to see trends and predict challenges and integrate every single part of your business. We're able to look at the dramatic changes there have been in the workforce over the last few years, the extreme disruptions that have happened and the resultant volatility of the global supply chain, and also bringing in consideration of multi-level sustainability at every touch point. And Industry 4.0 sits firmly at the center of that. Industry 4.0 impacts the entire business ecosystem. It touches your global business network. It touches your customers and your employees with new experiences. And it helps to drive an intelligent enterprise all the way from design to operate or consume, as we say, within both the discrete and the process industries in which we work. It is looking at market dynamics, being able to consider business performance, customer experience, being able to consider individualized products and services. How do we get that speed to market? How do we gain the trust of our customers? But also, how do we build product excellence into everything we do, including innovation, sustainability, and quality? And then we will touch all sorts of different technology enablers in order to try and do that. So what is Industry 4.0? I'm quite sure that all of you are aware of the different industrial revolutions that have happened over time. Industry 1.0, where steam power changed the way we operate. Then 2.0, where mass production and the assembly line was the focus, coming through to computers and automation at the beginning of the 1970s. But today, the fourth industrial revolution is really a digital revolution. Intelligent digital technologies, as I call them. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, the Internet of Things, advanced analytics, robotics, blockchain, AR, VR, all of these intelligent technologies are helping us to consider the power to reinvent how we do work and how we do business, and how companies engage with their customers all around the world. SAP's strategy for Industry 4.0 is to approach this with a center on the customer, understand the customer's input and preferences, reinvent the way we produce the items that our customers are looking for, and connect the entire company from factory-focused initiatives all the way through the company and delivering competition-beating strategies, combining manufacturing automation with enterprise business execution. And how do we do that? Well, with Industry 4.0 by SAP, we leverage intelligent enterprise technologies and applications. We consider the business network. We consider the customers and also the employee experience to deliver the intelligent, sustainable enterprise all the way from the front office through the supply chain to the back office. We look at this in particular along 4 areas, which you'll hear a lot more about throughout the rest of this event series: intelligent products, intelligent factories, intelligent assets, and empowered people. And we consider everything in that regard: sustainability, the customer experience, how it integrates to our solutions and other solutions through our industry cloud. We consider the new technologies such as autonomous systems, edge computing, and 5G, both private and public, but also taking big data and turning it into true insights that can help to drive intelligent decisions. So really, at the backbone of all of this, we also have the Internet of Things. The Internet of Things helps us to use sensing to be able to take information from connected devices, to leverage artificial intelligence, to train models that can actually use that sensor data to be able to give better outcomes, to drive power behind the business applications that we develop, And to run this not just at the center in the cloud, but also at the edge, where we're able to drive much better analytics autonomously and also orchestrate them in such a way as to deliver intelligent outcomes. Digital twins is another mechanism by which we can do this. These are physical machines represented in the virtual space. And really the information that we can gather between the virtual and the real machine allows us to do what-if analysis, predictive analysis, to be able to be much more prescriptive about how we maintain and increase the longevity of assets. And as I mentioned, we can do this at the edge. We can process and store and analyze the sensor data closer to the source of the data, whilst also enabling faster decision-making and allowing us to overcome those issues that we have with intermittent connectivity, etc. So we're able to drive much more intelligent outcomes. So really, imagine if we had a digital thread of data that ties everything together. Imagine if every manufacturing company was able to consider their design, the full service life cycle, and literally drive a digital thread of information that integrates all of these different aspects in real time. Being able to provide feedback, performance, and data-driven decisions on the product all the way from the cradle to the grave. And in terms of sustainability, not even the grave, but to be able to bring that component back through reverse logistics, to be able to drive a circular strategy within your sustainability goals. So this is really what I call intelligent digital transformation. And Industry 4.0 is helping us to drive this intelligent digital transformation that gives us the resultant digital thread. It is helping us to really take all of these intelligent technologies and embed them into our solutions and drive better outcomes all the way across every single touch point within our organizations and within the value chain. And I'm hoping today, when we get into the panel, that we'll have the opportunity to discuss this, look at how this is impacting the industries represented by the panelists, and hopefully get some really good questions from those participating as well, so that we're able to help everyone understand what is Industry 4.0, why it's important that we do it now, and how we can go about that through intelligent digital transformation. So the opportunity is now to drive end-to-end acceleration. We want to help you replace the vulnerabilities in your processes, in your supply chain, and create and take away those issues that are causing you problems today, so that you're able to deliver with confidence and speed as your organization grows. Thank you very much. I am looking forward to the panel now, and I'll hand back to Mukesh to get us to the next stage.
Thank you so much, Malaki, for your quick setting of the context. So before we move to the panel, I think let's just quickly watch a short video clip, and then we'll get to the panel as well. So just let me know once you're able to see the video and hear the audio. That'll be great. If someone can confirm.
Design to operate. This is our integrated approach to meet higher and more complex supply chain requirements. Personalized, mass-produced products, short innovation cycles, and the reduction of CO2 emissions. All this must be considered right from the start of the production process. At the same time, digitization, individualization, and decarbonization of products and processes are value drivers for the discrete industry and Industry 4.0. We demonstrate our ideal design-to-operate process using the example of an intelligent double-seat valve. We go into detail, focus on the many possibilities offered by a holistic approach and the added value it creates. We make each individual process step tangible as part of the big picture. How can individualized products be brought to market faster? In the design phase, we see how product adaptations affect other parameters, such as costs. Digital 3D models of our valve can be used to visualize and simulate changes to the design. Finally, all data can be seamlessly transferred and mapped with open orders in production to ensure a smooth and fast process. Moreover, this facilitates the planning and execution of supply and demand. How can planning support all areas of the supply chain in near real time? Here it is illustrated how easily we can incorporate long and short-term market movements into our scenario. This makes forecasts more accurate and the insights more meaningful, because optimized planning is the ideal basis for all other process steps. How can high quality and optimal OEE in manufacturing be realized? In our sophisticated production process, all the steps involved in the manufacturing of the double seat valve are interlinked. Operators are digitally supported. This way, we ensure the most time-effective and best possible result. SAP Digital Manufacturing orchestrates each step together with the actors and sensors from the shop floor, from visual inspection with artificial intelligence to cobots, innovative transport technology, electronic Kanban, digital video processing for worker instructions, and gesture control. And thanks to AGV, all areas of production, up until logistics, are physically networked with each other as well. How can companies develop their full potential in inbound and outbound logistics? With our automated warehouse, we illustrate how all areas benefit from digitization. Both man and machine always know where individual components or complete products are located, right through to operation and maintenance of the valve. How can downtimes be avoided? We prevent problems with condition monitoring, simulations, and predictive maintenance. This we achieve by integrating augmented reality and the conclusions we draw from all available automation and process data and insights over the entire product life cycle of the double seat valve. Afterwards, we use this information for the next design to operate cycle. At the heart of all those intelligent end-to-end processes is SAP S/4HANA Digital Supply Chain. The solutions incorporate and realize the opportunities presented by digital twins, artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things, machine learning, blockchain, and analytics. The result is beneficial not just for manufacturers, but also for operators. All involved parties gain detailed insights into every relevant process. Moreover, combining operational and experience data offers huge potential. As a result, companies can accurately predict future requirements and consistently align their products and services with customers. All this forms the future of productivity, and it shows what the experience economy can accomplish.
Okay, so I hope you found that video to be a little bit interesting and intriguing at the same time. So let's move to the next phase of the session today, which is a panel discussion that we're planning to host. The panel will be moderated by Malaki. I've already introduced Malaki, so I'll not repeat the introduction. Thank you so much, Malaki, for agreeing to moderate the panel. So on the panel, we have some very eminent people, and it is my privilege to introduce them. First off, we have Prince Joseph. He's a CIO for SFO Technologies Private Limited. SFO Technologies is a flagship company of Nest Group and provides total ODM, which is original design manufacturer, plus solutions to diverse industries. So he has more than 2 decades of experience in driving business in digital transformation and enabling Industry 4.0 by leveraging emerging technologies and executing strong cybersecurity programs for the enterprises. Welcome, Prince. Thanks for joining us. Next up, we have Mr. Ajay Chawla. He's head of IT and CISO for Sterlite Technologies Limited. Ajay has over 20 years of industry experience across manufacturing and retail, e-commerce, and software product companies. He loves enabling businesses through secure technology solutions to current and future business problems and challenges the status quo. His experience in building high-performance distributed teams in Indian global companies, in Indian startups, setting up extended engineering arm for US startups, high-tech industries, and IT service companies. Thanks a lot and welcome, Mr. Ajay Chawla. So next up, we have Samyapdev Mukherjee, Mr. Samyapdev Mukherjee. He is Vice President Planning and Control for United Breweries Limited. He's a chartered and cost accountant with experience in FMCG, telecom, and engineering. He's also worked for Ericsson, Philips, ABB, ITC, and ICI Limited. He's been nominated by his employer to attend leadership executive programs conducted in academic institutions, including Boston University, IIM Ahmedabad, and ISB Hyderabad. He's been awarded several accolades by leading professional bodies. He's been 5-time CFO Roll of Honor winner by CFO India, including League of Excellence winner of CFO Power List 2020 and FinTech Innovation Contest inducted by Deloitte India. Welcome, Mr. Samyap Dev. Thanks for joining us. So next up, we have Mr. Vikram Ozar, Director of Finance for Jindal Worldwide Limited. Mr. Ozar is a qualified chartered accountant, having post-qualification experience of more than 3 decades in the field of accounting, accountancy, auditing, tax laws, and finance. He has worked in various diversified sectors such as paper mill, ice cream industry, engineering industry, pharmaceutical, textile, and other industries. So he's presently engaged with Ahmedabad-based Jindal group of companies who are considered to be one of the top textile groups in the country. He's been selected in CFO India's 10th, 11th, 12th annual CFO 100 Roll of Honor for 3 consecutive years for being top 100 CFOs of the year. Welcome, Mr. Ozar. Thanks for joining us. So next up, we have Mr. Mohit Sharma. So he's SBU Head and Senior Vice President, Eveready Industries India Limited. So he has a strong record of team building, turnaround, and startup lighting in the lighting industries. Strong team management in marketing, production, R&D, and overall operations. So he's been part of a turnaround of Havells India and HPL Electric and Power Limited, and fueled 20 crore base of Jaguar to a future 1,000 crore lighting industry with state-of-art production units based at more than 11 countries with multi-talented team. He's a strong 14-year experience base of Philips Lighting in multiple areas. He now leads Eveready Industries as Senior Vice President at SBU Head. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Mohit Sharma. Welcome. The next up, we have Mr. R.N. Mohanty, President for Pidilite Industries Limited. Mr. Ram Narayan Mohanty has 40 years of experience in controls, instrumentation, projects, IT, general management, strategic corporate planning, innovation and process development at Pidilite Industries and Zuaria Agro and Fertilizers Corporation of India. He has 8 international or national publications on energy conservation, advanced control and optimization. Thanks for joining us, Mr. Mohanty. Welcome to the panel. The last, but not the least, welcome Mr. Ankur Chaturvedi, Associate Vice President at Imami Limited. He has more than 2 decades of leadership experience in diverse aspects of operations management and supply chain management in globally renowned organizations. An alumnus of the NDA, he's a soldier at heart. After losing a career of his dreams due to an injury, he came back stronger like a true soldier, morphed himself into a successful corporate professional. He's an MBA from ICFAI and an alumni of MDP of IIM Ahmedabad, a certified assessor for Tata Business Excellence Model TBEM and Indian Manufacturing Excellence Awards IMEA. He's got extensive domain knowledge of global ethical, environmental, health and safety standards, food safety, quality management, and other standards like ETI, organic fair trade, etc. He's currently also pursuing a doctorate in management and a degree in law. Welcome, Mr. Ankur Chaturvedi. Thanks for joining us. With that, I'll hand it over to you, Malaki, for moderating the panel.
Thank you, Mukesh. Very excited to be part of this esteemed panel. I get absolutely amazed every time I see the quality of the people that I am playing with here, because certainly it is my pleasure to be here and to be part of this panel and to be able to ask some of the questions that I have lined up and that we have talked about before the event. So just before we get into the panel, I know you've just watched what might have seemed like a long video, but something that's really important about that video is that it shows how Industry 4.0 touches everything. And as I mentioned in my presentation, Industry 4 touches every aspect of the supply chain and touches every aspect of what we're doing here today. And as I mentioned, sustainability has become a key area as well. So I want to try and focus the questions around Industry 4.0, obviously, some of the technologies we made reference to, but also to bring in some of that sustainability angle. I am going to ask the questions in the order we prepared them, and hopefully I'll get really good insights from the panelists. I'm expecting that, but also as we go through this, we may find that other questions pop up, and I would very much like you to put any additional questions into the chat as well, so that we can handle those at the end. So I'm going to kick off with Mr. Prince. And really, if we think about what I described as Industry 4.0, we think about the technologies and the capabilities. I'd like to understand, how do you, Mr. Prince, how do you define Industry 4.0? And in your view, is there any merit in deploying these technologies and what Industry 4.0 brings to the table?
Malaki, thank you. Good morning, everyone. On the question of Industry 4.0, there are so many definitions now available. To me, I just like to apply it to the industry that I'm a part of right now. So to me, Industry 4.0 is the digital transformation of manufacturing and production specific processes, related industries for us, and how we create value out of this new framework. So when we approach anything, the philosophy that I follow is typically, is there a best practice? Is there something that we can learn from? Is there a book we can read? Is there something that we can glean off? And then we try to apply it. If we are not path makers and pioneers on ourselves, many of these we know that there is a whole lot of knowledge and wisdom in the industry as well. So we try to adopt that. So from that perspective, over the last few years, Industry 4.0 has taken on that shape of becoming that broad vision for manufacturing and production, that providing a base framework that can be applied across all of these industries, plus giving you some sort of a reference architecture, very high level, because when it comes to the details, not every one of them will look the same. Everybody's approach will be different, and it will be what will be relevant for you that makes sense. So when I go back to what Malaki also said earlier, the 2-3 challenges for me when I try to look at this and try to apply this and how to make or create value for my environment was, one, to do with visibility. Second was to do with managing demand. And the third was to do with how do I actually bring in the smart factor into the way we work across all processes, tools, software. So the approach that we need to take is also a little different, because a tool will not solve any problem. And I think probably through the course of the discussion, we'll come to that. But now we are looking at a scenario where the target for any manufacturing entity is, we want to try and maximize our capacity. We want to make sure that at the end of the day, no matter what happens in the world, if we have an installed capacity base of this is what we can produce. But we want to produce that on as to the max as possible, and that's one target that we have. Second one is, aligned to this is the overall efficiency. Third one is, now any disruptions that happens, how resilient are we? Now, to manage all these things and to maintain the kind of yield targets that we have, performance targets that we have, and other metrics that everybody follows, OTD, OEE, you need data. You need data to be coming in real time from all the elements that's in the value chain. And this is where Industry 4.0 actually offers insights and guidelines into how we can actually leverage this. So when you're trying to now go and see There is data in our ERP system, but there's also data with people. There's also data in email. There's data which is probably generated through processes which is probably not captured well. There are data in other systems. There are data in machines. There's data in the plant. There is data in our suppliers which we need to have. Our shipping partners we need to have. All of this needs to come together, and that is where I think we find some major transformation, major impact in the way we can contribute back to the business, whether it's supply chain, whether it's impacting production, whether it's managing demand. But demand is actually one of my bigger challenges right now, because we have a demand change, we react to it, but halfway through reacting to it, the demand has changed again, and we need to react again. So this is an area where a lot of this is falling, becoming very, very irrelevant. So the unlocking of value that we need to perform and we need to deliver is possible with this framework. So
Yeah.
I can summarize with that, Malaki.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, as with all Industry 4 questions, there's so much to talk about, and you drilled into all of the key topic areas there, and in particular highlighting the requirements around data. Perhaps, Mr. Sayam, could I possibly ask you for your opinion on what is Industry 4.0 and really what's the benefit of deploying these new age technologies as we keep coming?
Thank you, Malaki, for asking me this question. I would try to address this in context of the function which I represent, finance, and which is the supporting function. On a lighter vein, actually, you feel a little left out in the company of the big boys, literally speaking, because Industry 4.0 is all about manufacturing and all about downtime reduction and what have you. Having said that, from the functional perspective, when I say from the functional perspective, I'm just not restrictive myself to finance, but from a support function, which could be legal, which could be IT, which could be also HR. For us, it's a little bit of a double one. I'll tell you why. Typically, at least from the function which I represent, in our thought process, we are more binary. However, to transgress to this Industry 4.0, it is a lot of in the realm of cognitive technology. And I tell you why I'm talking about it. As you showed in your presentation, Industry 3.0 was all about transaction processing and automation of transaction processing. But to me, and I can add to, I mean, you can agree or disagree with me, Industry 4.0 is more about from a transaction processing to an ideation level. And why I say this is, again, in context of the function which I represent, finance, typically our thought process, our analysis, or the entire process was dependent on the database which resides within the organization. So which is available in your systems, basically ERP packages or whatever. But in Industry 4.0, there is a lot of data which resides outside your system in the form of the environmental data. And nothing could be more pronounced in the context of the COVID environment, which all of us have gone through. Of course, that was our first brush with technology. We had each organization had a planning tool, and to that, with our ubiquitous tool of Excel, which has survived us in good stead for so many centuries, we could do something. But then what we realized is this is only the tip of the iceberg. With business complexities going up, we have to also develop a basis of integrating data outside the system. And in this context, you have a new team of professionals, data scientists, and so on and so forth, joining a part of your team. So going forward, again, in context of the industry or in the function which I represent, finance, I see it is a marriage of both finance professionals and also the data scientists. That would be one part. The second part, literally speaking on the HR function, I think the entire process of recruitment to retire, that will go a lot of changes. While the transaction processing has happened to a certain extent, but the entire process of recruiting can go a complete shift in terms of IoT, in terms of AI, in terms of understanding the body language, in terms of understanding the realities of the candidate. So that is something which we have not done in the past. But the real challenge in this process is how do you actually you make yourself capable to be a party in this forum, because that is not something which the support function as professionals which we have done. So that's a lot of unlearning to be done as well as learning at the same time. So that would be my limited take in context of the support functions, how we can contribute to Industry 4.0.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. Actually, I think we are all guilty in the technology space of always thinking of the manufacturing fix or the product fix or whatever. So it's nice that you bring it back into that context around the support function. And maybe later when I talk a little bit more about digital transformation, I'll pull you in to help understand your views on how we can implement digital transformation and bring that to the fore. But coming back to the manufacturing, just for one moment here. Hello, Mr. Mohanty, sir. Looking forward to getting your views on how you think these technologies that we've been talking about, like AI, IoT, etc., how are they transforming that manufacturing process, Mr. Mohanty, sir? I think you might be on mute, sir.
Okay, so manufacturing has got three aspects. When you go to the technical aspects of manufacturing, one is the product, new product development. Then the core manufacturing, the reaction or the assembly line, that's the core manufacturing. And of course, the supply chain, both forward and backward supply chain. So these new technologies which are coming in the 4.0, they have revolutionized all the three aspects of it. Let us start with the new product development. New product development in manufacturing is of paramount importance. It can be called R&D, it can be troubleshooting. And so the new product development for the process industry or for the discrete manufacturing industry, they are a little different, but I will just go one by one. So I come from the process industry. Most of my experience is in process industry. The new product development in process industry is revolutionized by what is called computational chemistry. Computational chemistry is the use of computers for predicting the properties, the side effects of any molecule from the electron stage. So the computational chemistry brings down the time to bring in a new molecule substantially. And it is interaction with the other molecules, atoms. So for predicting a product, a chemical product, it is very easy with this computational chemistry. Coming to the discrete manufacturing side, the discrete manufacturing has been blessed with the additive manufacturing or 3D printing. So 3D printing, you can print many complex objects at any place. You don't have to struggle for having a, so you have a small computer, you can have a printer, you can print a small small needle, but you can print a part of the aircraft. You can print a city, buildings. So the additive manufacturing, earlier most of the manufacturing was done by not additive, but so now additive manufacturing, it reduces drastically the requirement of raw materials, requirement of and reduces the byproducts, waste, and takes care of the environment. Basically, in the manufacturing, this new product development by the new technologies has been very, very beneficial. Now coming to the core manufacturing, where the IoT, IIoT, and the edge computing, also with the help of the cloud, has revolutionized the core manufacturing. Any reaction model, online monitoring of the reaction, any deviation from the best of best course. So this can be monitored online, and the course correction can be done without drastically reducing the off-spec and the waste. It also helps what is called the flow reactors and very small reactors put in modules to produce very complex molecules safely and without much of wastage again. So the flow reaction is also a big benefit by the control of the controls, and in the using the technologies which were just on the paper earlier, like safe memory materials, like the Seebeck and Peltier conversion of the heat to the electricity and electricity to heat. So these things which are used for the temperature control of the processes. So these are the new benefits which so the modeling and CFD, the computational fluid dynamics, which was there earlier, but with the artificial intelligence coming in, the CFD has gained a lot of popularity and usefulness for deciding the mixing pattern, reducing the time to produce, reducing the cycle time. These are big benefits which have come from the IIoT and the other AI. Machine learning has been very useful for learning online many parameters which were hitherto difficult to notice, and use it for the AI. See, like the AI is now is helping the genome sequencing, which is now used in many of the pandemic genome sequencing by over 100 times. You can speed up 100 times by the artificial intelligence. So this is the core manufacturing has been revolutionized by the 4.0 and the technologies coming in. The last, but not the least, is the supply chain. Our moderator is from the supply chain, and the supply chain for the process industry has been changed. You can see the supply chain of the Amazon. They give in very short time. See, I am from chemical industry, make adhesives. We make supply earlier. Suppose we are doing it supply in say 15 days. Now, by combining the computational chemistry and the flow chemistry, we can make this manufacturing at the point of use. I can make at the point of use anything, not anything, but whatever I have decided. So we can make chemical at the point of use in grams. If there is a carpenter group in one area, one village or town, 100 people, they use the adhesive. So different grades for different substrata. So we can make the there and give it as per their demand. We can give it in minutes. We can give the point of use. This helps in two things. It helps, during the pandemic, there was a big issue of supply of raw material and offtake of the product to the product delivery. So if my machine, which is of a ATM size, ATM or a good washing machine size to make Fevicol at 250 liter per day, so I can give it to Rajkot, which is having a good population of carpenters. I give it there so they can make some 100 grades of Fevicol adhesive and use it there whenever they want. So it helps the supply chain drastically. Another supply chain which we are actually working on, now I am telling that I think if I'm not running short of time, I'll give a good supply chain example, which can come out of all the 4.0 components. It is yet to come, but it is in the just coming. This supply chain is for the adhesives for fixing a detached retina. Retina is the screen where you get the image, and so sometimes it gets detached. Once it gets detached, you become blind or you become the very hazy image. And each eye, 7 billion people in the world, there are 14 billion eyes. All 14 billion eyes are different, unique. In sense that the liquid inside and everything is different. So for changing the retina or doing the work, the good doctor needs all the aspects of the 4.0. So what you can do, you can take all the diagnosis which will get the diagnosis before the operation, about 95%. But 5% is unique. Each eye, your left eye and right eye are different. So you have to go to the operation table, open the eye, and your flow reactor sits on the operation table. It is a small one, like a induction heater or like a small computer or a laptop. It sits there. So you look for you take out the liquid from the eye and see whether there is any adhesive which is compatible for this liquid. You will go to your library, which is available in the computational chemistry, and look for the adhesive. It may not be there. It may be there. It may not be there. If it is not there, you go to the computational chemistry, and on the fly, you make that molecule from the electron interaction and side effects. So they make the molecule, get the molecule, printed, they manufactured by the flow reaction, take it out, put in the eye. That is the supply chain, instantaneous, on the table itself, and make the retina stick to this eye. So this is what all the aspects. This is coming. This is not yet come. This is
Awesome.
coming.
That's a great example. I think I could listen to you all day talking about these examples as well. I think it's very exciting to see the practicalities of how we can use the technology. So I wanted to turn to Mr. Ajay, and basically what I'm keen to understand is, we've heard a lot there from Mr. Mohanty about the whole end-to-end value chain, but perhaps maybe you could give us an idea or your thoughts on how it can be applied for this concept of a smart factory, right? So how can we build these future-ready smart factories? And I think like everyone else, you probably can talk about this all day, but I'm just curious to get your high-level thoughts, please.
Thank you, Malaki. And I think I'm very happy to be on this panel. I think with so many diverse and esteemed thought ideas coming in this discussion. And I was really worried when Mr. Mohanty started, at the level of details he was able to go, and he was enjoying his discussion. For a moment, I forgot that, we have a time also, but I think it was very, very interesting to see and hear from Mr. Mohanty. I feel that, I don't know if I'll be able to do justice to after following up with Mr. Mohanty. So, I'm sitting in one of the cables, the optical fiber cables in Aurangabad. There are a couple of more, which is optical fiber. And then, it is distributed in terms of locations, the fiber plant and the cable plants across the globe. It's a very interesting industry in terms of, like, people talked about COVID, how did it get hit? And from our point of view, I think it was for the telecom industry, it was, nonstop in terms of both demand and I think the future demand, how it looks like from different cables, different interconnects which we need. In all this, how do you, when I talked about different plants, the idea was, Malaki, about, when we are setting up a new plant, and also our different plants with different ages of machines, right? We have been in this industry for more than 30 years. So you can imagine that there will be machines which would not have heard about PLC or SCADA, right, when we talk about smart industries. So let's go back to a little bit of basics of, where we need smart industries to come in. Everybody talks about it. I want to go into specific areas within the smart industry. We are a process industry, and in that, I would say that, the whole part of OEE improvement, Malaki, you touched about optimal OEE. I'm talking about, and then Prince talked about, running the machine to the installed capacity or the rated capacity. Those are very, very important factors. You cannot continue to expand on the machines while you have not utilized the current machines. And that's where Industry 4.0 with this wearables is coming into play. So I will talk about a little bit about OE and then go into one specific area of a smart industry in terms of defect detection. And then leave it that, because I just want that, there is some item for us to learn from each other. Learned a lot from the previous three speakers. And then the audience, who can challenge me that, AI, we talk a lot about AI. I feel from where I am in the industry I am, AI is a little further away. We need to get our basics right in terms of, the ML and the connectivity and a secure connectivity in a smart network. We talk about edge. How do you have your own 5G with your edge setup and it talks to the cloud, public cloud preferably? How do you have a secure environment for that? It's very, very important when you are connecting your machines, both from a data leakage perspective and intrusion. You name it, and then there are bots and machines working incessantly to break into your network. So many, anybody who says that I'm foolproof, maybe in for a surprise. So we do nowhere claim that we are that way, but the idea is by design, look for a secure network, especially when you are connecting your machines. And some of those machines would have a fresh new SCADA connected, a UDP network set up for them. So going back to a little bit about the defect detection, I think there are use cases where you want to come in where you can completely remove the human element. Why are you doing that? Because in certain cases, when it is a repetitive tasks of identifying defect through a human eye, there is the whole concept of coming in of, the tiredness and, casualness of doing the whole process. And you have to completely eliminate the human element. Otherwise, you are not bringing in the productivity. So both the aspects, you get pulled into. So you have to complete all the defects. So we did a POC with the 80% Pareto chart with, let's say X number of defects. Out of that, Y we picked up for 80%. We solved it, and now it's running in the plant, and we are bringing the remaining up to the speed with a clear timeline, where we had to do a lot of improvement in terms of what we call as machine vision, computer vision. That component comes into play in today's Industry 4.0. You are taking away the vision part, and then you letting the machine and the ML, I'm not talking about AI. I don't think so we are anywhere near that, but ML point of view, very clearly define the use cases and then build on it. So that is the area where you completely identify the defects. You bring in a traceability, a digital traceability. I'm not talking about prevention yet. I'm just talking about detection, that, you know, you bring that traceability, where it happened, which bobbin, let's say it happened, and where, which batch ID it was produced, and the whole BOM related to it. So, you know, those aspects are very important on the ground. And with the technology, you know, available at us, you know, good cameras, high-speed cameras, cameras who can within you know, a few seconds do multiple digital photographs. You can change the intensity, focus very quickly. So all those things are required from a machine vision to replicate our human eye, because it's a, as Mr. Mohanty talked about, it's an instrument of its own. Replicating it and then digitizing that whole process is something which I'm just explaining as an example from a defect detection perspective, build ML around it, and the IoT part coming in where the machines are connecting, and I tried to get the data tags of what were the steps which, you know, the values were of that machine when that defect was defected, and then it brings in a whole traceability around it. Then the next level would be where we would go forward is from a defect prevention. But the stage at which where we have a full system running is where, you know, I wanted to share my experience around it. I hope I was able to take 4 or 5 minutes and close my topic. Thank you.
No, that's great. I mean, that's a really good example as well. And I think it brings us into that, that context of the importance of bringing all of these technologies to bear, okay? And as I mentioned in my introduction, the S word, as I call it, you know, sustainability has become a key element that everyone's thinking can possibly be delivered through the introduction of these technologies. And I'd like to turn to Mr. Anker. Mr. Anker, I'm just curious on your thoughts on do you think, does Industry 4 contribute towards sustainability in the manufacturing sector, for example? I'd be interested on your thoughts on that.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. If you look at sustainability, I would say sustainability is the inverse of degradation. That would mean that whatever we are doing, you can't do business without using resources. You can't survive without utilizing resources. So forget about business. Now, what does Industry 4.0 do holistically? It reduces my dependence on inputs, whether it be energy. I am more efficient, so I am more energy efficient. Now, whether I use solar energy, whether I use nuclear energy, whether I use hydroelectricity, or even my thermal energy from the thermal electric plants, if I reduce my consumption, that is a direct impact on sustainability, on reducing my carbon footprint. Then you come at the input materials. An automated factory, a digitized factory reduces waste. It improves my process efficiency. So if I'm more efficient and I'm reducing waste, I'm reducing garbage, I'm reducing the dumping, I am reducing my consumption, my net input per piece. Like if I give you an example from my industry, where we make cosmetic tubes. So if I can reduce, say, 0.5% of my wastage of cosmetic tubes, that means that 0.5% of a billion tubes are less for recycling or dumping. Similarly, if I look at the factory per se, when you look at data being shared, when you look at trends, the industry I come from is required by statute to maintain a lot of records. Our batch processing records are very, very elaborate. They're written by hands. We have people who are experts and they keep writing, taking out the data. But this data is there in hard copies. Now, if this entire thing is digitized and I can use AI, I can predict failure. Now, imagine one batch of a particular product which will go into tons. If it fails, okay, I might have my ATP, I might clean it, whatever, but ultimately not having a waste is a huge, huge gain. And I think that is where Industry 4.0 really changes our mindset, that our mindset from reducing our effluent discharge from the factory, we can now focus at reducing the generation of effluent itself. And this goes not just for water, for air, for everything. I hope I've been able to address the question. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I mean, that is actually something that we focus a lot on here at SAP as well, in terms of designing out waste from the start. In other words, what's my process? What am I producing? How can I get the waste out? So remove the waste from the design, build into the product the fact that it can be circular, for example, as well. That's another angle. And I think we could, again, have probably a whole separate event on sustainability, but I touched, and we've mentioned so far in the questions, all of the different elements. And I think we've talked about Industry 4, we've talked about the technologies, we've talked about the smartness of them, we've talked about the sustainability element. And I'd like to come now to Mr. Mohit. And I also mentioned, just at the close of my presentation, around digital transformation. So I'd be curious to understand, Mr. Mohit, where and how do we see the challenges of digital transformation in this context, and how might we be able to scale any of these digital transformations that we're working on? And just to tee up, Mr. Vikram, I'm going to be asking you the same question in a few moments. So I'm just curious, as we begin to close this out towards the Q&A, what does digital transformation mean, and how do we scale it up in this context?
Martin, so very deep insight by Mr. Monty, Ankur, and other people also. So I'm not going to repeat the thing. First, let's talk about how the industrialization start. Industry 1, 2, and 3, when computer starts. India were nowhere near from 1760 to whenever time 1840. But today, Industry 4, India is in all the prospects and all the aspects also. You talk about last year, papers very clearly says in digital money transfer, we are number 1, more than China and USA. So it is very clear we are in. See, now I give example how this digitalization, automation is going to affect. And I'll take example of my industry and my factory where I set up as a practical part. Like us in Jaguar, we set up a laboratory, a purely robotic laboratory. Like, because lighting is a technology, you need high-class labs for any production unit, not why I said lighting. So by using robotic things, your manual intervention is minimum and accuracy up to 99.99%. So we'll get a product validation fast, working fast. I'm not saying use of robotic in production is important, very important, because here also you got the same aspects. But first of all, our quality parameter is going to be plus. I gave a few more examples of new industries nowadays, like we heard about Razorpay, a payment desk, right? In last 2 years, the industry come up to $8 billion. He's just a payment desk, a digital payment desk. I'm not taking the old name of Oyo and many others. Now, a very small company, Recycle, a digital waste management company. So you find many names who are using digitalization, the sensor, the use of machines to make things faster, to make process very fast, to make things happen in a much cooler way and a better yield. Most important with digitalization is speed. Speed is very directly proportional to money. See, okay, when we talk about any digitalization, any automation, the first part comes the investment part. So when we think going to be speed up, money also going to be increased. About a few minutes back, one of our friends is talking about demand, supply chain, a very important role of digitalization. First, we understand the psyche of consumer. When you're going for a product, first of all, psyche of consumer, what they want, because nowadays things have changed. We can't produce something by knowing or by understand or by seeing the experience unless consumer accept it. Then we have to match what type of the psyche is going to match with the sustainability, means production per se, profitability per se. Then we have a choice of products. And vis-a-vis, we can have a very robust demand supply chain, area-wise, depot-wise, and requirement-wise. We can match with seasonality factor also. Like in India, Diwali is a very big season factor. Or maybe in some products like Pidilite is talking about rainy season. Rainy season for adhesive is a very big season factor. So these are automatically set the demand supply. So where we need what type of SKU it can reach. So things are going very faster. I'm saying most of the companies now going plus. And I'm sure the way we reach number 5 in GDP worldwide, our aim to become number 3, crossing Japan, not far away. Yeah, thanks.
Excellent insights. Thank you very much, sir. And I think we're coming up on our last question to Mr. Vikram. So thank you for being patient and waiting, sir. But I'd like to maybe blend those last 2 topics, digital transformation and sustainability, and maybe get your views on, digital transformation has meant something for many, many years. But as we start to adapt Industry 4 and bring in this context of sustainability, Mr. Vikram, sir, how do you see digital transformation affecting that, and how can we go about making sure that that's done correctly?
Vikram, sir, can you just say something? Yeah.
Mr. Vikram, can you hear us? We may have lost Mr. Vikram.
Looks like that. I can see him on the call. I can also see that his microphone is unmuted. So maybe there is some technical difficulty there. Mr. Vikram, can you hear us? And can you quickly say something so that they're able to hear us, or put something on the chat?
Well, perhaps Mr. Vikram will be able to chime in a couple of seconds, but I'll come back. Maybe Mr. Sayandeb, I mentioned earlier, I might get your views on digital transformation. So perhaps if you could just give us maybe a couple of minutes on your thoughts around this digital transformation context. And if Mr. Vikram rejoins, we can get his thoughts as well.
Sure. I think the first and foremost thing on this digital transformation process is you have to ask yourself relentlessly this question: why am I doing it? Is it just because it's a cool thing to do? Do I do it? Then there's a big peril, and I'll tell you why. First of all, if you look around, what the data says is this entire digital transformation process is going to grow at a CAGR rate of 20%, and it's going to be a $3 trillion economy in the next 4-5 years. So the natural propensity of most people is the fear of missing out, or FOMO as we call it. But if you do it, this digital transformation in that mindset, you have a huge risk. First of all, if you don't know what you're doing, or as they say in Alice in Wonderland, if you don't know where to go, any road can take you there. And this is going to cost you money. The challenge of technology is always over a period of time, it falls. But if you are to join the bandwagon in the early stage, you have to be dead sure what you get out of it. And being a finance professional, maybe Martin, this is not something you would like. I would relentlessly question my colleagues on the ROI and the what and the why, rather than just because it's a fashionable thing to do. Also, the other important thing to understand is there are 2 aspects to it. One is the industry readiness. One is the individual readiness. As they say, success is when opportunity meets luck. So over here, this is also the classical case. In the industry context, there can be certain points of digitization which can take you there. However, having said that, to follow that practice, am I really up to speed? I think Ajay rightly put it that if the basics are not right, then AI is a thing which is not to be implemented immediately. So I think that thorough introspection needs to be done on the digitization process, rather than just blindly following because it's a cool thing to do.
Thank you very much for that. I'm not sure if you heard when Mukesh introduced me, he talked about my experience in banking. I actually have 15 years in banking as well, so I fully empathize with everything you're saying. So I totally understand. So I reached out to Mr. Vikram, but unfortunately I have not been able to connect with him. But so Mukesh, what we'll do, I think, is let's dive into the Q&A, and hopefully if there's a question, we may be able to place it to Mr. Vikram if he's able to join back. But I suggest open up for the Q&A. Are there any questions in the chat at the moment?
Yes, I have 3 or 4 questions actually already on the chat, though people have direct messaged me. So that's okay. I can ask the question on their behalf. First question, as always, that we get in a session like this is always around change management. The question that I got was, while everyone is talking about Industry 4.0, how is the industry taking care of change management while implementing the Industry 4.0?
Yeah, perhaps I'll mention a little bit about that and then see if anyone else wants to grab it. It's quite interesting. I have a slide which isn't in my deck, which talks about digital transformation and the steps and the key elements. And one of those key steps is understanding change management. I think what we've got to be very careful about with all these technologies and what ifs and maybes about how we're transforming is people are being affected by this. Organizations are being affected by this. The consumer is being affected by this. And we need to be very careful to understand that every aspect, no matter how small, is a change management project. It needs to be treated as a change management project. It needs to be given that importance. And it's very, for me, the process around change management is very specific. I think we really do need to look at every single aspect. As Mr. Sayamdev just said, it's not just doing it for the sake of it. It's around being able to identify what are the reasons we're doing some of these things, and then what's the change impact of that. And that change impact needs to be taken on a journey. Everyone fears AI, for example. Everyone says, oh, AI is going to get rid of my job, blah, blah, blah. But actually, we've had experience during the Suez crisis last year where we used AI to help people who previously would have been involved in moving the large tanker to be able to identify how to do that the best way using technology. So the change process here is not about replacing people in some of these aspects. It's about changing the roles people have and being able to bring them on a journey and become digital natives, as we like to talk about. So not sure if anyone else wants to grab that one as well.
I can see someone raising a hand. Samyamdev Mukherjee. Yeah. You want to go ahead?
On the change management, I think this is the good old school method which has to be followed. It has to be a good mixture of top down and bottom up. While the strategy can be at the top level, but till the buy-in is happening at the execution level, whatever the change management risk process is, whether it is in the field of technology, in the field of human resources, in the field of manufacturing, it's never going to work. I think the important dynamics which we most of the times we face is we have these Gantt charts and we have a plethora of tools to track the change management process. But what we tend to miss out is the human angle to it. And to me, that's the most critical thing in the entire change management. If you get that right, rest of the things fall in place. If you are not getting that right and only relying on technology to bring in the change management, and here possibly I'm saying slightly variant from the topic of discussion today, but being a person from the old school of thought, I think no technology can work to have the change management in place.
Thank you, sir. Prince, you have also raised your hand, so would you like to challenge?
Right. Yeah, I just wanted to add on to what Sandeep and Malaki just mentioned. So to me, buy-in part is not optional. That just needs to be extremely clear throughout all the layers of the hierarchy, because the person who is interested with making or bringing about the change, most of the time his remit and his agency only goes so far. There are players involved in this who need to come in, and digital transformation, in my experience, is such a vulnerable and delicate project or initiative that the slightest amount of resistance can actually adversely impact it in a massive way. So you need to actually have a way to manage that. I have done, from my experience, two areas where we felt a cross-functional team was able to handle it, but now we have moved on to actually making this an office. There is the DTIO, a digital transformation office. You need somebody with a stamp, with some more leverage to actually go in and have those conversations, and then go through the process of coming up with a joint target to attack. Then it brings in a little bit more effect is what I've experienced.
Okay, thank you so much. Martin, Malaki, I think Mr. Vikram is on call now. Would you want to bring him in one of your conversations?
Absolutely. I think being part of the panel is important that Mr. Vikram gets an opportunity to talk. So welcome back, Mr. Vikram, sir. I had asked you earlier a question around understanding of digital transformation, but in particular, how we can bring digital transformation to bear when we're bringing sustainability into this whole Industry 4.0. So I'd be very interested on your thoughts on that, please.
Mr. Vikram?
Has he joined with a different name? Somebody else has joined on his behalf? I don't see Vikram.
No, I see him, but his audio is still not working. So anyway, let's go to the next question on the chat that I got. It was a very specific question addressed to Mr. Chawla. So how are you segregating the type of defects and what calculating ROQ?
Come again, Mukesh, your last part was not very clear.
The question states, how are you segregating the type of defects and what calculating ROQ? I do not know what that means, but Subhadeep, would you like to unmute yourself and ask the question and expand on it?
Yeah.
Yes,
So actually, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Subhadeep from Exide Industries Limited. We have recently implemented Industry 4.0 in one of our manufacturing units at Hosur plant. So here we are facing the challenge with while calculating the ROQ, basically the rate of quality. You are mentioning about the calculation of OEE. So in that context, I wanted to know how you are calculating that, how you are segregating the type of defects and calculating that ROQ. That is my question.
Sure. Subhadeep, I'll try to generalize that, and I would request that you extrapolate it to your industry. The context here was that it was very important. First we, and since it was being recorded manually, all the defects you may not know, but hopefully that you would know most of the things. In our case, that's where the journey started. So I would leave that base open, the denominator open as to the total number of defects, at least till the POC stage or maybe further down, where you would discover some defects when you bring in that aspect of, the machine vision, some what you would call as human eye detecting it as a, and I would, Subhadeep, I think you would have specific examples from an Exide point of view. I'm just talking out from, my perspective of cable. When you are doing it on a fiber, which is very, very thin and it's almost transparent because it's natural fiber, how do you, make sure that you are at least replicating what the human eye did and then extrapolate to the new defects which the machine ML will bring in? So I left the denominator open in terms of the total number of defects. And then we, as I said, we categorized them to what was creating 80% of the defects, which we knew were happening more frequently for me to go through the ROQ journey. As I said, once I have done that, it is in production, the number of defects which we are, so we came to know that there are a few more, which were 20% of the defect. But as we were going through the journey, and the ML was, data was getting collected now digitally for all the, parts or the bobbin in our case, we discovered that the base changed from X to, X plus. So I would let the technology, which is evolving faster than what we would think, be open to that idea. I think we will have we are promising something which is practical on the ground, and not saying that, you will be reached 100% of the defects, but while doing that, you may defect more, the total number of defects may change. So that's the journey which we have taken, Subhadeep, from a practical example point of view.
Thank you, Mr. Chawla.
Thank you so much. So Mr. Vikram is online. I can see his video now. Maybe if you can unmute yourself. If you can say something so that we know whether we are able to hear you.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, now we can hear
Yes, we can.
you.
Just I will take only 2 minutes of yours, just to highlight how automation has helped us to grow. When the most important thing is for an organization is the management of working capital cycle. And working capital cycle essentially means management of receivables and management of payables. So through automation or supply chain financing, as it is called in the banking parlance, you can obviate the need for a big staff, and you can control your collections as well as payment sitting over your table. See, what normally we do, you get your customers suppliers onboarded on a platform, and you make payment to them. There are for this payment, there are two things. Like just as in receivable, you have factoring services. For the payments, you have got reverse factoring. So based on your strength, only the anchor company's strength, you can very well manage and keep the credit terms and enhance your external rating, which ultimately will help you in reducing your interest cost. Similarly, for your customers, what you do means you get as an anchor company the limit sanctioned by your lead bank, and they will be giving those limits to the customers recommended by you. Of course, they will take normal securities, but it will not be to the collateral, not to the extent of 100%, 50% or 25%. It will be a nominal. And sitting over your table, taking advantage of all the latest development, you can log in into their account and get the collection immediately as you upload the invoice. Or sometimes even the invoices are not required on an Excel basis. If you do it, and immediately you get the payment. So this is how the development in the industry has helped and reduced the dependence on your team for the efficient management of the working capital cycle. I will just end it because it's already getting late.
Thank you so much, Vikram sir.
I can explain them in more detail, or maybe you can approach me. Any one of them can approach me on my mail ID, and I will definitely try to talk to them or reply them on their mail.
Sure. Thank you so much for that offer. I think in the interest of time, one last question, and maybe I'll invite Ankur to answer this. The question is around for job shop production system, which part of Industry 4.0 should be used first for better productivity? Ankur, if I may ask you to,
Thank you very much, Mukesh. Well, let me tell you that when we look at automation, when we look at technology, we tend to look at a top-down approach. We tend to look at complex systems, AI, blockchain, automation. But if you ask me, the first step to convert a conventional factory to a smart factory is to digitize the machine logbook. If you can have, SAP already has a digitized machine logbook, but you'll be surprised at the number of companies who are using SAP, but they have not got plant maintenance enabled. So you do not have the machine logbook in the digitized form. Because till a few years back, when we talked about all these things, there was no tangible benefit that we could showcase to them. Well, with due apologies to Mr. Mukherjee, I had a tough time trying to explain to our commercial team, the reason why we need a digital twin. The answer I got was that once you build the factory, take a video. Why do you need someone? Why do you need to pay someone to make a digital replica of something that you are anyway planning to have on your own? Now, fortunately for us, COVID has propelled this transformation fast. So coming back to the question, start from the basics. Get your first, whatever you're recording, first machine logbooks, manufacturing logs, digitize them, put them on a cloud, get that data first. Then look at automation. Again, please do not over automate. I'll just dip into the previous question which came in. When you talk about ROQ, today the cost of sensors has come down a lot. So we try to put sensors for all inspections. Now, yes, I agree that automated quality inspection is the best, but still there is some amount of human component that is there. Please make sure that you do not try to put extra controls and end up compromising on your output rather than benefiting from digitization. So coming back to the question again, please start from small steps. First, get all your data digitized, then look at automation, then look at analyzing your data and benefits from them. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your insight. I think we are already 4 minutes on top of the hour. So I would like to thank all the panelists for your time and sharing your insights. I'd like to thank all the participants for taking time and joining us for the first in the series of 5 sessions. The next session that we have planned is for Thursday, same time. And we will again host Malaki, and he will be talking about intelligent assets for productivity, efficiency, and ROI. This is on Thursday, 11 a.m. Please do join us again on Thursday. And until then, thank you so much for your time and patience. Take care. Have a good evening. Bye.
Thank you, Mukesh. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.